Um, I know I've talked about Monsters University before, but of course that was before I saw the actual movie, so I thought it was only fair to look at it again now that I've seen it. Um, I'll just come out and say it wasn't as good as the first one. Rarely movies are, good as the first one, but I think the problem with Pixar is they're really doing their best when they have something new and original, and their creativity just explodes all over the place. But when they have a sequel, that's when they've confined themselves, and they can't be as creative as they could have been. They've created their own little cage, only a few things to work with. I kind of felt that problem with Monsters University. There were like lots of angles I think they could have gone to, but they couldn't because this was a prequel. And I was a little disappointed, but it's gonna happen. I knew not to set my expectations too high because again, this is a prequel, and you know, this was already a great movie that didn't really need expansion in my opinion. I thought it was already fantastic, but unfortunately, this seemed to kind of cash in on the success. I mean, they had success with Toy Story sequels, and I guess they thought, why not try another franchise, and it just didn't work. So this kind of makes me wary for Finding Dory, but anyway, on this movie. Um, I will say that I did like that for Randall, they didn't go the way to make him so sympathetic that we'd wind up sorry for him. To me, he was a jerk through and through. Even in the beginning with the cupcakes and the glasses, he was ready to ditch studying and he only cared about fitting in with people. I'm not gonna lie, this kind of made me feel really gratified after seeing so many posts on Tumblr saying, "Oh my God, he's gonna break my heart." Nope, no, he's a jackass through and through. He only cared about being popular. He only cared about fitting in. He didn't care about friends. He didn't care about studying. He only cared about looking good in front of other people. And of course, that came to bite him in the end. I do wish he'd gotten more screen time. I wish he'd gotten a little more involved in the plot. That way, to set up a even bigger rivalry in Monsters Incorporated. And so we just got this little send off, like before the film is even over. We never see him again. Slightly disappointing. Um, and I am disappointed that there weren't that many important females. I mean, you had Dean Hardscrabble, and she was amazing. The moment she entered, even though I'd seen her design dozens of times before in commercials and trailers and on the internet, her entrance and the way they focus in on her spiny little legs creeped me out so much. It was super effective. I will say this. During this movie, when they wanted you to be afraid or at least surprised, they did an excellent job. Um, when they wanted you afraid, you were afraid. Even when you knew it was gonna be okay, like when the adults were scared in the camp thing, you could understand what they were going through. Like they actually, you could spot little elements from horror movies in that scene, and you could understand if you were in their shoes, you would be terrified too. That was so much fun, and I liked the scene that followed. I liked all the subtle things from Hardscrabble to show you that she was afraid. You couldn't imagine her afraid before this moment. You couldn't imagine her, shaking and quivering and like hiding, but you had it in this moment. You had the perfect example of what someone truly afraid looks like, and I loved it. That was beautiful animation. You didn't need to say anything; you just knew it. She was afraid. Gorgeous. And again, the animation is fantastic. It's Pixar. They've like perfected it at this moment. You really believe and see a lot of stuff. I didn't see any 3D. I'm not really a fan of 3D, but I have to imagine it looked pretty cool in 3D, considering all the cool effects we saw. The voice acting was spectacular. There were lots of voices I didn't recognize. I mean, I recognized them, but I couldn't connect to who it was. And I was, really surprised to see in the credits, like Nathan Fillion. I didn't know he was in this. That was awesome. Um, but I'm gonna have to round back to the disappointment with Nathan Fillion's character. He was very one-dimensional, and I don't expect that from Pixar anymore. I expect, more sides to a character, considering what they've given us so far. And instead, he's just this bland, stuck-up jock, and that's all there is to him. There's nothing else to him. There's not even a backstory. There's not even, a reason. He's just jackass. And that's not fun. eventually the shtick gets tired, even as a villain. He's not a fun villain like we expect from Disney villains. He's just there. He's just an obstacle, and that gets boring. Again, I was very disappointed that Celia wasn't there. I was very disappointed at the lack of female characters. Like I said earlier, besides Dean Hardscrabble, who's a fantastic character, you don't really get a lot of female characters. There wasn't even any in Uzma Kappa, and I didn't see a reason for that. Why not have at least one female in Uzma Kappa, even if it was just a token female? It just doesn't seem fair. And with the other females in the other groups, you just got like a bare glimpse of them. You didn't get anything about them. You had the cheery girls, the normal girls, and then you had the goth girls, and that was it. That was their basic core personality. They were probably mostly designed to be marketable, which is really disappointing. Then you have the basic plot. The plot I enjoyed to a certain point. Everyone knows when watching this that Mike is not going to be a scarer, and he tries so hard. But as I mentioned in my earlier Monsters University expectations video, I expected it to hurt and hurt hard, but the thing is, it didn't hurt. Because, I don't know, it was just, when the scene came when he realized he wasn't as scary as he thought he was, it just seemed to me like, how could he never even thought about this before? He's had other people tell him this, but he's never actually considered it before. And, I just find it really hard to believe that all through his life, all through his point up to college, he never actually had a doubt about himself. I don't know, it just wasn't portrayed very well. I wasn't as hurt as I thought I was going to be. I wasn't as connected to him as I thought I was going to be. And I guess, I think it's because I knew how well they're going to be in Monsters Incorporated that I just didn't, feel as strongly as I could have for this movie, because I knew they were going to be friends. I knew whatever obstacles they had, they were going to overcome it. So, there wasn't really a climax or a building up moment for me, because, you already know how things are going to turn out. So, at some point, it just becomes, waiting. And you don't want to wait for a movie. That's not right. It just becomes boring. Another thing is, I think they used some of their best jokes in the commercials and trailers, which is extremely disappointing, because I think if they had been replaced with the worst jokes, and we saved those jokes for the actual movie, we would have gotten a lot more laughs. It was still funny, but, just not as funny, because, by this time, we'd gotten sick of them. I think I'm saying all I could for this movie, but I will try to end it on a good point. I will say that there were jokes that made me laugh so hard I actually covered my mouth just to keep from screaming. Like the dance scene where Squishy lassos in Sully. I was almost in tears at that point. And I will say they got college life down to a T. I went to college, and those orientation day people, they are exact replicas. And I was just shaking my head and laughing at how real it was. And I bet a lot of adults in the theater were too. So I will say they did their research well. And when Pixar does their research, they always do it well. That you have to admire. They always go above and beyond when it comes to that. No pun intended. So, if you want to see a subpar movie about the characters you love, go ahead. As always, this is just my opinion. And, we're all entitled to our own. This does make me worry about the future of sequels and prequels from Pixar. And really, really, really makes me want to, hope that they'll try and stick to something original in the future. Please, guys, that's what you do best. Just stick to your original works. That's what we love. I'm rambling. Alright, time to finish this up. Have a magical day, everybody.